Hi everybody, persistence runners for Comrades 2025. Hopefully just a relatively quick one today. In the last week the CMA have caused pandemonium and panic by putting out a press release which I believe was incomplete and fairly poorly considered. However, there are some facts out there which I have managed to find out, and there are a lot of people making assumptions. So when you go to your weekly time trial and you hear people talking, just be careful of listening to assumptions. There are some facts out there, and there are some things that are certain, there are some other things that are uncertain. So just hoping to clarify some of that stuff. So the big issues are the start waves and batching. So first up, start waves. There will be two start waves. Your start wave will be indicated on your number by a colored square in the bottom corner of your number, and you will go into that start. They will be 15 minutes apart. The medal that is awarded to you at the finish, or whether you get a medal at the finish, will be dependent on when your start time was. And there will be two finish chutes in Durban, and depending on what color there, you will be awarded your medal appropriately. I haven't seen actually any information on guns that will be fired at the finish, but I presume that if there are guns, that there will be two guns 15 minutes apart. So for example, like the silver gun, there ain't going to be anybody in the second wave that's going to be running for silver. And I don't think for Bull Roan either. I certainly wouldn't have anybody that's seeded fast enough to run a Bull Roan in the second. But you never know. There might be somebody who's been very conservative with their marathon qualifier and can run a Bull Roan, but 15 minutes apart. And your medal will be awarded based on your start time. Only two start waves makes it relatively simple logistically to figure out what color medals people should get, or whether they should get a medal at all, and that is how it's going to work. That avoids some of the complications that they have at Two Oceans. Two Oceans have 13 start waves, and I know it's been well publicized that they've made a bit of a mess a number of times with regard to getting people the right colors of medals and all of that stuff, and whether people should be award finishers or not. So hopefully it's a bit simpler at Comrades with regard to that. Then the cutoffs on the road for if you're running too slowly, basically, to make the finish. The only thing that is certain at the moment is that the halfway cutoff is going to be at 6:30, which allows plenty of time for a well-paced runner to then run a faster second half. That's the only thing that's certain at the moment. Norrie Williamson is the person who's responsible for calculating all those things. All the controversy has been since 2016. In 2016 and the subsequent years, they started calculating those cutoffs based on a flawed system. Norrie was one of the loudest voices saying that's not the right thing to do. And he has taken it on and will be sorting that out, making sure that everybody gets a fair chance at a finish. And basically, if you miss a cutoff and will be taken off the road, you are going to have zero chance of running to the finish in a humanly possible speed. So Norrie's taken that on, and I know that that will be the case. He's not going to put his reputation on the line like that. Then the other thing is seeding. So let me just state right now, I'm making some assumptions because this isn't clear, but they're going to divide. So the old seeding rules, so here are some facts. The old seeding rules where A batch was sub 3 hours, B batch sub 320, C batch sub 340, D batch sub 4 hours, green numbers E batch, F was sub 420, etc. With most of the field in G and H batch. Those rules are out of the window. There is no fixed hard and fast time cutoff. So for example, in the past, if you wanted to get D batch, you could run 359.59, and you would get the same batch as a guy who ran 345 or 350 or 357 or 341 for that matter, right? That is all out of the window. And what they are going to do is they are going to take all the qualifying data, rank it numerically, so fastest runner to slowest runner, I presume they're going to take the elites and the super fast people out of it and have their own start enclosure for them. But for the rank and file normal runner, they're going to rank us all numerically according to our qualifying data, and then split us up more or less evenly so that the congestion getting into the start batches is far more even for runners throughout the field. So it won't be as difficult to get into your start pen as it has previously, particularly if you are in G or H. But for the guys who might have been in B or C batch, there might be a bit of change for you, because there might be quite a few more runners in your batch than what you had previously. So you're going to have to allow for that and make sure that you are arriving in time to allow for it at the start. And yeah, so everybody divided a lot more evenly by number, and Stuart Mann is doing sort of a predictor based on the 2023 data, and he'll come up with a theoretical qualifying cutoffs that would have worked for the 2023 race, just to give people an indication of, if you are aiming for a particular start batch, what time you should aim for. But just bear in mind, at Comrades, if you finish sub 10 hours, you will be easily in the top 50% of the field. Okay, so the batching is going to change quite substantially based on that, if they are going to even the batch numbers out. And you might find that sort of a guy who might have been in D batch, he might end up, depending on how many batches they make, he might end up in, like, I would say probably B batch, if they still go to H. And split the batch numbers up evenly. So, which, that's still going to be around about a 4-hour marathon, maybe just a little bit faster actually, if you want to run a sub 10 Comrades. But yeah, it's really substantially going to change what the letter on your number might be. But you're still going to be sort of in the same position in the start field relative to other people, because it's all going to be based on the rank order of your start time. Previously, you knew exactly what time to aim at. When I ran my qualifier in September, I ran to a barrier and wasn't worried about having to run any faster. And that really is not going to work out well with the change that now comes very late. So thankfully, I have got another qualifier lined up very soon, next weekend in fact, although I'm not really very well prepared, but at least I've got another shot at it. And the approach to take, if you are running another qualifier between now and Comrades, the approach to take is, I would recommend taking this approach. First of all, don't run any PBs or anything like that. It's really not worthwhile. Even if you do start one batch back on Comrades Day, it's not going to compromise you that badly. It's far more important to get good quality training from now until Comrades Day in the bag than it is to, be one batch ahead of where you would have been. One batch on Comrades Day doesn't make that much difference. In fact, being one batch behind where you should be, sometimes it can help, because it can slow you down in the beginning and give you more on the day at the end. So no PBs, no dramatic efforts, no massive stiff and sore legs that put you off the road for 7 to 10 days or maybe even 2 weeks after your qualifying marathon. And you don't want to be sort of running gently in the next 2 or 3 weeks, because you're trying to recover from having sore and tired legs, dealing with fatigue, potential injury issues and that kind of thing from your qualifier. So you still need to go conservative with that, but you can't run at any particular time barrier. Say for example you were aiming at D batch, which in the past is 3:59:59, you could aim at that exactly. Or to put you in the same position in the field, that is uncertain at the moment, although Stuart Mann is going to put out some data using the 2023 data, which he's going to use that data to approximate what your qualifying times based on the new system would be. So it won't change very much statistically. That it won't, your sample size is big enough that it's going to be consistent for this year. So that'll give you an indication of where to aim at if you want to be in a particular start batch and position. And then you could literally run, say, that sub 4 hours, right? You could run 3:59:59, and you could just ease into the finish and do the minimum amount of damage to your legs and get in and not have to worry about doing sort of the best time that you could have. The approach that I would take is, that using that hypothetical situation, like a sub 4 hour runner or whatever, you might have to run a few minutes faster than that if you are capable of it. You're going to have to pace yourself evenly in order to do that, to get the best possible time for your effort, and then just hope that making the best effort, running an evenly paced race, because that really is the key. Run an evenly paced race to get you to the finish in the best condition, and then hope that slots you into the right place in the rank order so that you can get your correct batch. If you go out of the start gates too hard and bomb in the last like 7, 8, 10, 12 Ks or whatever and lose packet loads of time, that is going to put you back in the start order. And if it's far enough back, that's going to compromise your Comrades day. Getting out of Maritzburg, those roads are narrow, and it does take a little bit longer to get over the start line than it does in Durban, and depending on what route they decide to take out of Maritzburg, again dealing with some past issues that were poorly considered, but with the new CMA committee and the race organising committee, hopefully there's a bit more common sense with regard to that. But yeah, hopefully they're not going to take those silly narrow roads that we had to deal with a few years ago, where there were massive big bottlenecks coming out. But again, if you do a good job of your qualifier and run an evenly paced race, that's going to be a massive advantage with regard to dealing with any narrow parts of the road and bottlenecks and all that kind of stuff, getting out of Maritzburg. As regards the later start, to me, that's a side issue completely. People are just getting all in a huff about nothing. It is much better to start in the light. 15 minutes is not going to make a difference with temperature, and when you get to the afternoon and early evening when it does get dark, in Durban we have street lights, and the municipality are capable of making an effort to make sure that the road is relatively well lit, the road is wide, and it's far less of an issue when you're running into that urban area with regard to tripping and falling hazards and stuff like that. Running out of Maritzburg, there is plenty more of that to be worried about. There's a lot more traffic furniture, and the road's a lot narrower, and all of those kinds of things. So that's really, to me, that's a positive change, which was a good idea. So yeah, hopefully that clears up some of the facts. Yeah, a little bit more pressure if you are still going to run a qualifier, a little bit more pressure. But it's really not going to make that big a difference. If you 2 or 3 minutes either way, it's not going to put you that far back. Just run a sensible pace, and you don't want to be sort of bombing and be 10 or 15 minutes slower with your qualifier. That really could make a difference. But just be sensible and use common sense and submit a reasonable qualifier without having too many consequences in the next few weeks. Hopefully that clears a few things up. I've just got back to being a full-time runner after a doozy season. I completed my 20th doozy this year, and I'm also hopefully going to be on the way down to Maritzburg for my 10th Comrades. So kind of looking forward to getting that out of the way more than anything else, and got a lot of training ahead of me in the next few weeks, because I've been doing a lot of paddling up until 2 weeks ago, so a lot of work ahead of me too. Cheers guys, good luck, see you on the road.